G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for the news vlog. I hope you've had an awesome weekend. I am now back to regular programming, I think. I'm always attempting to do daily vlogs, but unfortunately sometimes my other work gets in the way to such an extent that it makes it very difficult. But let's get on with the news for today. And first up, it's this story of a Boeing whistleblower who has been found dead in the US. So let me read this story, and it's interesting for many reasons. Of course, he's a whistleblower, which raises so many types of questions around what led to his death. And then, of course, the fact that Boeing seems to be in the media quite a lot these days with a lot of their airplanes, even recently, one that was flying to New Zealand, I think a Chilean airline, LATAM Air, having some issues as well. And we consistently see about aircraft hiring practices when it comes to the pilots, potentially the staff that they're hiring. We hear about DEI initiatives by these types of airlines, which may be compromising safety. And of course, this well-documented issue around Boeing when it comes to some of the maintenance or quality control issues they have with the products they're putting out there. And these are, of course, very sophisticated, multi-billion dollar, million dollar investments or machines for many people that purchase these products, and for us, the consumer that use these products. So, of course, safety is of utmost paramount consideration when you look into a story like this. So, Boeing whistleblower found dead in the US. A former Boeing employee known for raising concerns about the firm's production standards has been found dead in the US. John Barnett had worked for Boeing for 32 years until his retirement in 2017. In the days before his death, he had been given evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. Boeing said it was saddened to hear of Mr. Barnett's passing. The Charleston County coroner confirmed his death to the BBC on Monday. It said the 62-year-old had died from a self-inflicted wound on 9th March and police were investigating. Mr. Barnett had worked for the US plane giant for 32 years until his retirement in 2017 on health grounds. From 2010, he worked as a quality manager at the North Charleston plant, making the 787 Dreamliner, a state-of-the-art airliner used mainly on long-haul routes. Now, again, self-inflicted gunshot wound, of course, raises many types of questions. The police investigation is ongoing, but when you hear something like that, when you hear whistleblower, when you hear the types of companies and individuals involved in these type of companies, of course, it makes you wonder. In 2019, Mr. Barnett told the BBC that under-pressure workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. He also said he had uncovered serious problems with oxygen systems, which could mean one in 4 breathing masks could not work in an emergency. He said soon after starting work in South Carolina, he had become concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised, something the company denied. So this has been an ongoing thing for Boeing in terms of the spotlight, especially around these Dreamliner aircraft that I'm pretty sure there was a Netflix series that highlighted some of these issues as well. And now one of the main whistleblowers has ended up shooting himself, allegedly, with a self-inflicted wound to end his life during the time he is giving testimony around information on Boeing. Let me know what your thoughts are on this story. Again, I don't want to speculate too much, but I will be keeping an eye on further issues around this story and bringing them to you as they become known. Staying with the BPC, guys, this is just, I guess, breaking news from a few hours ago, and that is the Tate brothers, who are holding out in Romania, have been issued with a UK arrest warrant. So Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate detained in Romania over UK arrest warrant. Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have been detained in Romania after European arrest warrants were issued by the UK, his representative has said. The allegations include sexual aggression covering 2012 to 2015, his team said. The Tate brothers categorically reject all charges, the statement said. Romanian police said European arrest warrants for 2 men were issued by the UK authorities for sexual offences on Monday. The alleged offences also include exploiting people in Great Britain, the Romanian police statement said. The 2 men were presented to the prosecutor attached to the Bucharest Court of Appeal, who ordered their detention for 24 hours, police said. Anyway, these Tate brothers, there's been a long ongoing issue in Romania. Of course, this has been widely covered. It's interesting, I guess, this story in a way that these two are the focus of A lot of these European authorities, even the UK authorities now, taking this issue up with the Tates by issuing a warrant in relation to crimes in the UK, allegedly. And a lot of people online have raised doubts around how the veracity of these claims against them. And I know people have differing views on these, and these two are very controversial figures depending on who you speak to. But it is quite interesting that the police seem not to be interested in many other crooks and criminals, perhaps those on the Epstein client list that they're not really going after for historical issues or whatever it could be, even though apparently they have the black book or the names in the list, but we rarely hear about arrests or things related to that. But when it comes to the Tates, even though the Romanian authorities have struggled for a long time, I believe, with their case against them, and you've seen the ups and downs of that, now you have the UK authorities jumping in. And I am no fan, boy of the Tates or anything like this, but I'm just saying it makes you wonder why these two individuals in particular are getting this much heat in terms of police resources, because it seems disproportionate when you compare to the fact that other people in similar positions don't really get this type of focus. Perhaps they're attracting this attention just by the fact that they're always talking smack and really putting themselves out there as a target, and the authorities are like, okay, cool, we're gonna come after these guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Tates. Next up, guys, is this issue around a suppression order. Now, suppression order was issued in relation to a kidnapping and torture, allegedly, assault, robbery, all types of things are being thrown around in the media, and the names were suppressed even though the international press was covering it. So recently that's been lifted after a court appeal by the media, I guess, in relation to this, and now we can name one of the alleged kidnapping, assault people that the police are alleging was responsible for some of this. So her name is Laura, what's her name? Have they put her name in? Oh yeah, Laura Alarm. So, human rights activist charged over alleged kidnapping and assault of man in Melbourne. A Melbourne human rights activist and charity founder has been charged with the kidnapping and assault with police. The woman lured a 31-year-old man into a trap and told a group of men to hit him hard. The partial lifting of a suppression order on Tuesday means the ABC can report that the 27-year-old Laura Alarm is the woman charged over the alleged attack. There's some other details that I can't get into too much, but let me just read the details from the kidnapping. According to court documents, police allege Miss Alarm sent a WhatsApp message to the alleged victim asking to meet for dinner and picked him up about 9:50 p.m. on February 16th. Police allege Miss Alarm then drove for 200 meters before stopping the car and getting out. In court documents, police said the passenger was then ambushed by 3 men wearing masks who forced him into a ute parked nearby. The alleged victim recognized 2 of his 3 attackers when they removed their masks and was severely assaulted with a hammer, police claimed. Miss Alarm then alleged to have called the kidnappers and told them to hit him hard. In documents provided to the court, police said the kidnapping victim was taken to a property in Melbourne's north, where Miss Alarm allegedly stomped on his head. They said the injured man was left at the property and managed to flag down a passerby who took him to a hospital. So yeah, look, there's a lot to this. Initial reporting also mentioned that a lot of the Herald Sun, the Australian reporting that was talking about this particular issue, was saying, alleging that the reason that this individual was attacked or kidnapped and beaten up was because his boss is Jewish. Now that is being denied at this time by some, but that claim is still out there as well. The veracity of that, I guess, will be tested at some point, potentially, but I don't think the police are pursuing that angle, although the media is still discussing that angle at length from some of the reporting that I have seen. So if you want to look up more into this suppression, or there's a few other people involved in this as well, which I can't get into too many details about because of another matter, but you can have a look on the ABC, who is now covering this issue. Next up, guys, another bungle for Australia with this visa thing where we've let out these, I think, 70 or something alleged murderers and people who have committed such crimes. Sorry, 149 criminals that we've let out. into the public, and that was because of a high court ruling that said they couldn't be held in detention. Now, the issues that were issued to them by the Labour government under the legislation, whatever they amended, apparently that legislation or the visas that were issued under it are also invalid. So some of the repeat offenders, the creeps that ended up being reoffending and arrested while out there in the public under these visas and put back into detention or whatever it was, have now been released and let free because the government issued invalid visas. This is just bizarrely, utterly contempt for the public from the government, in my opinion. So let's have a read from The Guardian. Invalid visas issued to 149 people released from indefinite detention, Labour admits. The federal government has admitted issuing invalid visas to the 149 people released from indefinite immigration detention after the NZYQ case, with the potential for charges to be dropped against those who were redetained for breaching reporting and curfew conditions. In the latest chapter of the high-profile immigration case, what has been deemed a technical issue in the visas given to the detainees freed after a High Court decision has been discovered, meaning their visas were illegitimate. The consequences are those that charged for breaching the conditions of those visas may have their charges dropped and let free. The government is hurriedly reissuing fresh visas to the cohort, which will put them under the same rules like ankle bracelets and reporting conditions as they were initially meant to be. Now, I know a lot of people have said, why not just deport these individuals? And they're not citizens. Some of them have criminal histories and all this kind of stuff. It's crazy when you think about it that this is what we're dealing with, and a lot of resources are being put towards this immigration issue repeatedly over and over and over again. So time and resources, this is costing Australians, where the immigration minister is focusing on this nonsense. The Labour ministers, the Labour cabinet, the government is focusing on these type of issues, while Australians are having all types of other real world issues to deal with. And this issue here is around visas for illegal immigrants, and it's just completely ridiculous. Next story, guys, talking about citizenship, illegal immigrants, and all that kind of stuff. This news story from Nine News got community noted, and it's upset a lot of people from India. And I want to kind of touch on this a little bit as well, because I found it interesting that Nine News went down this avenue of reporting this story in this manner, because I do believe this reporting in terms of the headline itself, not the article. The article actually explains a lot of the details around this, but this particular headline is very misleading. It says, India's new citizenship law to exclude Muslims. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has today announced rules to implement a citizenship law that excludes Muslims weeks before the Hindu nationalist leader seeks a third term in office. This sounds like the reporting that they did around Trump and his Muslim ban. Remember that in 2016 where there were people crying and stuff because he decided to ban certain immigration from Muslim countries of extremist individuals or terrorists, or places like Syria where they were having certain issues. He said there's going to be a pause on immigration during this time for these reasons. But still, if you're a Muslim living in other parts of the world where they didn't have this type of issue happening, of course you could fly into the US. So it wasn't a Muslim ban per se as it was being portrayed when they were discussing Donald Trump. So in this time here, when it comes to Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, they're doing this same type of line in terms of the progressive media around the world, saying that it's a Muslim ban. But when you look into the details, it doesn't quite make sense, because India is actually, I believe, the third largest. Is it the second largest or third largest? I did a piece on this, so I'll just bring up the exact stats because I don't want to get it wrong. I did have some figures close to this. Okay, India has a population of roughly 205 million Muslims, which places it at around the third largest population in the world in terms of Muslim citizens for a country. So I believe it's Indonesia, Pakistan, and then India, or one of those three versions, right? And these changes to the citizenship laws are about fast-tracking citizenship for persecuted religious minorities and refugees who fled neighboring Muslim-majority countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan prior to 2014. So in effect, these laws which are being introduced in India are around helping persecuted Christians, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs from the neighboring countries around India, from Muslim countries who have fled to India as refugees or people who are fleeing religious persecution of some sort and are in the country without a status in terms of their citizenship. They can't go back to where they came from or their countries of origin because they'll be persecuted. That's the belief. So it's these visas will be issued to these individuals to naturalize them or to give them citizenship in India. And the reason it excludes Muslims in this instance, in particular related to this law, is because the countries around India are Muslim, countries. That's those individuals. If you're a Muslim, most likely will not be persecuted. And this law specifically deals with helping out these individuals who are persecuted and giving them a pathway to citizenship in India. Again, I know it's not important for Australia to know about these topics, but I found it interesting that Nine News decided to also report on this in this mind frame, right? In this framing. And why would they do that? Because it's so obvious that this story isn't really around that. Like, why? What's the need for Australian media to remove the context from their headlines and to, you know, make something like this seem more than what it is? Because these kind of issues can lead to tensions. It leads to types of racism, perhaps. It leads to people. A lot of the comments initially were like, oh, why don't we just ban Indians? Look at how they treat other people, this kind of thing. And I'm not Indian. I'm just saying this as someone who's observing the reporting around this. So the community note actually says, this is what the community note says. CAA endeavors to offer Indian citizenship to persecuted minorities like Hindus, Sikh, Jain, Parsi, Buddhist and Christians of Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. Others, including Muslims, can also apply for Indian citizenship under the Citizenship Act of 1955. Anyway, interesting there. Now to finish up, guys, some news from the UK. And the UK seems to be ahead of us in terms of their woke policies that impact people's ability to, drive cars that they want to drive, and, all types of environmental levies and fines and fees, especially in Sadiq Khan's London. And this is two interesting stories around this, and I fear that these type of things will find their ways into Melbourne, especially through the Melbourne City Council, because they're so woke. And this is exactly the type of ideas that we shouldn't be seeing encouraged in Australia. So Sadiq Khan to send scrapped ULEZ cars to Ukraine with plenty of money left for petrol and diesel drivers. So ULEZ is a scheme around types of vehicles that can be driven in a certain zone, and cars which don't meet the standards or the certification around what those emission standards are not applicable, and they can be taken. Drivers who own non-ULEZ compliant vehicles will have the option to send their cars to Ukraine in exchange for a grant instead of being retrofitted in the UK. Sorry, not taken. This is what I'm talking about, the scheme. The scheme, funded by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, will come into effect on March 15, having received the green light in January to allow non-compliant vehicles to be sent to Ukraine. Transport Secretary Mark Harper confirmed at the start of the year that the government did not consider there to be any legal barrier to donating vehicles to Ukraine. As a part of the scheme, it originally meant that all London residents could apply for up to £2,000 compensation for scrapping a car, or up to £1,000 for scrapping a motorcycle that didn't comply with ULEZ rules. So look, when we're looking at the future and moving towards electric cars and the sustainability, perhaps incentive is to scrap your car here and to send it off to war-torn nations or places like Ukraine, because they can use it over there. You get some money back. You get rid of the gas guzzler or diesel car that the government don't want you to own, because they want you to have these new EVs that they want you all rolling around in. And this is the scheme that they've come up with. Now, the same amount is being offered to people wanting to send their vehicles to Ukraine. For wheelchair accessible vehicles, there is a payment of £10,000, which is pretty good, to scrap, or £6,000 to retrofit to the ULEZ standard. Last month, the mayor said he wanted TfL to explore how the scheme could be used to encourage the vehicle donations. The Transport Authority found the UK-registered charity British Ukraine Aid as an appropriate intermediary to roll out the new scheme. So what do you reckon? Should we start sending cars off to Ukraine as well and getting back credits for doing so, and buying an electric car or something that fits the ULEZ standard as the Australian equivalent of this? I can see this kind of thing becoming popular in Australia with the type of ideas that especially the Labor government and the Greens come up with. Next story, guys, is something that will probably piss off a lot of people in the UK. I read this and I laughed my head off. Motorists could be slapped with a huge £2,500 fine for avoiding potholes and careless driving. Now, if you drive around here in the streets of Victoria, I don't know what it's like in other states where you guys live and around other parts of the world, but in Victoria, the roads are horrendous. All right, in Melbourne, the roads are horrendous. There's potholes everywhere. Some of the freeways leading up to the western suburbs, northern suburbs, potholes, right? And now they're saying, and this is in the UK though, but they're planning to slap people with a fine for avoiding potholes. Again, if Melbourne City Council figures this out, if Vic Roads and these groups figure this out, and that they can fine individuals for trying to avoid their potholes, maybe they'll never fix the flipping potholes. All right, let me read this. Experts are warning motorists that they could face up to £2,500 fines if they swerve to avoid a pothole on roads, as they could be prosecuted for careless or inconsiderate driving. Despite potholes being a local authority risk, data has shown that 90% of car drivers still have issues with potholes in their areas. A further 60% of drivers warn that their vehicles has been damaged as a result of a pothole, or known friends and family who have had issues with the risk of fines being handed out if someone drives careless or without due care and attention. So look, I don't know, this seems like a massive scam. First things first, in the UK, you should be demanding your local authorities fix the bloody potholes. If they're going to start fining people for avoiding these crappy, dangerous potholes to protect their cars, because they can do a lot of damage. Let me know if your car's ever been damaged by a pothole. I try to avoid it as best as possible very early on, because I drive a lot in the city and I know where these potholes are most of the time on the road, so I know which lane to be on. That's how bad it is sometimes. Yeah, crazy stories, guys. Anyway, great to be back doing the news vlog. I hope you've enjoyed my show today. If there's any stories that I've missed over the last couple of days, let me know. I'll try to cover them as well. I'll be covering tomorrow, the next 3 days. I think it should be consistent with a daily update. Friday, Saturday is a bit difficult for me, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. And as always, guys, you can, of course, subscribe to my YouTube at The Real Rukshan and hit that notification bell if you want updates as I post. Also, you can find me on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, Odyssey, and Twitter, which is X, at The Real Rukshan. See you guys all next time. Bye.